Hello, this is Will with another story time with Will. And today, I say story time, it's actually writing time. It's Monday, so it's writing time with Will today. So, what I want to talk about is secondary characters, but I also want to talk a little bit about some things that influence me as a writer, as an artist, and all that stuff. And I want to kind of put that out there in one kind of video. So, anyway, we're going to talk about secondary characters first, and then work our way back to the influences. So, by the way, if you like what I'm doing, if this is the first time you found a video of mine, please go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Subscriptions would be great. Comments would be even better because then I can talk to you. I can dialogue with you. Anyway, so secondary characters. Last week, in the last video, I talked about primary characters. I talked a lot about the antagonist. I talked a lot about the protagonist and different things like that. I want to talk about secondary characters. Secondary characters are the characters that help the primary characters get to where they're going. Sometimes they're helping the antagonist to stop the protagonist. Sometimes they're helping the protagonist push through whatever the circumstances are. An example of that could be found in, uh, I'm trying to think of a really quick example, like, for example, Dragon Ball Z, which is actually one of my influences I'll talk about. Goku is your primary character. He's your protagonist. He's your hero. But then you have people like Krillin. You have people like Yamcha and Yajirobe and different people like that who are secondary characters. They can become the major character in a particular arc of a story, but their main job is to help Goku get where he's going. They help fill out the family, they help fill out the friends and the people who help him do what he does, whether it be training or whatever. And so the secondary characters are just as important sometimes as your primary characters because they're the ones that help your primary character keep motivated and in other situations go through and do what they have to do, even though it may be tough. So that's what a secondary character does. When you write secondary characters, you want to think, sometimes you may think of your own family, you may think of friends, you may think of people that you care about that help you push you forward. And then think about them as it relates to how you would write your secondary characters. So different TV shows, for example, you have secondary characters as well. In different books and things like that, you have several different secondary characters, things that the people that help push the main characters forward to whatever their goals may be. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about influences and things that have influenced me in my art career. The first thing I mentioned was Dragon Ball Z. And one of the reasons it influenced me a lot is because of the action. And that influenced me kind of later in life. You know, it wasn't something that came to the U.S. until, probably the mid and late 90s. So it's when I first started seeing that and understanding and developing it. As a writer, one of the things, and more as a reader, one of the things that really encouraged me and strengthened me was as I wanted to be a writer is Othello. I read Othello when I was in college, and it was the first time I really read something with a black lead, and I thought it would be interesting to when I read that story, it really got me thinking about more about how to write leads and flawed leads because Othello's very flawed, but he still really fits this very majestic. He's a kingly person. He holds things in high regards. He's loyal to a fault, and it's really what hurts him even in the end. His loyalty to his friends and those that are close to him, with Iago being more of a secondary character. But Iago really trying to become that main character because he's really jealous of Othello and his position. And so another book that's really, as a reader, especially when I was younger, was A Wrinkle in Time, which is about to get a movie soon. So in a way, if you've never read A Wrinkle in Time, I'd honestly say if you like science fiction, but more along the lines of really family books, books about a daughter really trying to find her dad. She's not necessarily held as high regard, but she's a hero in a lot of ways. My faith in the Bible and things that drives me is something that really encourages me and strengthens me in life, but also it's something that I think through as I write because I always want to have a message in what I write that is biblical. And so that's a major influence of my life. Another influence of my life growing up was Star Wars because it was all over the place. Another major influence as well is the cartoon Gargoyles. It was a show that when I was growing up, I really didn't know what it was about. But man, when I started watching it, it was really cool. It was really awesome. It was really neat. Keith David, with the voice he had, it has such a gravitas to it. It has such a deep breath to it. But Goliath was such a flawed character as well. it's one thing I like to try to write. I like to try to write my characters as flawed people. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. And so that's vital. Going back to the Bible, I mean, we understand that man is flawed and he's not perfect. And but it's something that's something that has really influenced my life because that show brought me so much into the land of like Hamlet and Othello and Iago and Beowulf and different characters like that were in the show. So I always thought that was really cool. Another thing that influenced me as a writer and artist as well was E.T., the movie E.T. from the 80s, because it told such a heartwarming story about a little alien that landed on Earth and how we dealt with it. And then the last thing that really influenced me was WWE wrestling, particularly one character that I remember really well, that's Dusty Rhodes. Because he was a common man, he fought for the good of the common man, and he didn't look like the typical jacked up wrestler, but man, could he talk. He'd get in there and get on the microphone and be like, Danny, that's the American dream, that's the role. Baby, let me tell you how this is going to go down. And put that in your pronoun section. And he would just, whatever he said he was going to do, he would do it, and he would put everything he had into it. Man, crowds loved him and crowds ate him up. So he was very charismatic. And that was one of the things I loved about wrestling, I loved about him. Another show that I liked that I didn't even know about till it debuted one night, actually, was Thundercats. And Thundercats was a show about this guy named Lion-O, who was a young guy. He was never meant to be ruler, but he was meant to be the ruler. And so he was a child, and so he was going to grow into it. Well, when they crash landed on the ship, something happened. And he aged prematurely, so he had the body of an adult, but he didn't have the mind of one. And so that in of itself was really thought-provoking because it was like, what would happen if a kid became the ruler of a world? And kind of how the people behind him really helped his secondary characters, really like Panthro and Tigra and Chitara and all them, how they helped him develop into the leader he was supposed to be. And so those are things that really kind of spoke into that. That was, those were different shows and different books and things like that, and movies that influence who I am as a writer and an artist as well. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something from it. Not only as you write, but think about who influences you, because those are important things you have to look at. So anyway, guys, love you as always. Be blessed. Be a blessing to somebody. Take care, guys.